In the book of Psalms and in the book of Proverbs, there are many chapters that sound like they were written in today's paper or posted on the internet. One such chapter that we have not yet discussed is chapter 12, another chapter attributed to David. It's not very long, it's only 8 verses long. The very last verse actually carries with it the concern that David expresses in his contemplation of it in the first 7 verses of the chapter. Here's verse 8. On every side the wicked prowl, as vileness is exalted among the children of man, or as one translation says, of humanity. Both of those phrases are exactly the same. So what's involved in that observation with wickedness on every side prowling around and with vileness that is exalted among people? Why is that the case? For the time we have together, I want to talk about deceptive speech and selfish hearts, because that's what's involved in these 8 verses. Verse number 1, save, O Lord, for the godly one is gone. The faithful have vanished from among the children of men, from among humanity. It's a decay of objective thinking. It's a decay of seeing things really as right or wrong above what I determine for myself as right or wrong. It's an inability to focus on what may be correct, what may be incorrect in culture. The godly one is gone. The faithful have vanished from among humanity. So what happens, and why is that the case? In verse 2, everyone utters lies to his neighbor. With flattering lips and a double heart they speak. Decay of what is good, verse 1. Deception in verse 2. Deception rules the day. Everyone utters lies to his neighbor. Flattering lips. A double heart. They're saying one thing, but they don't believe it. They're believing something else. They just want you to think that they're believing something other than what they really have in their heart. In verse 3, the demise of individuals in this kind of category is something that David really hopes for. May the Lord cut off all flattering lips, the tongue that makes great boasts. The Hebrew for cut off, and that phrase cut off all flattering lips, carries with it the idea of rooting out. Dig up, eliminate that kind of wrong conception about how people need to function anyway. May the Lord root out all flattering lips, the tongue that makes great boast. And the tongue that says in verse 4, with our tongue we will prevail, our lips are with us, who is master over us? So now you've gone from a decay of society, verse 1, to deception, verse 2, the hope for the demise of that way of thinking and acting in verse 3, and then the defiance of these people in verse 4. Here's verse 3 and 4 together. May the Lord root out all flattering lips, the tongue that makes great boast, those who say, with our tongue we will prevail, our lips are with us, who is master over us? The idea is we decide what is right and what is wrong. There's no greater authority than ourself. That's just the way that it is. It's interesting, there's a comment that was made in a commentary that was written back in the 1860s by a German theologian, a Hebrew scholar. And writing on this verse in Psalm chapter 12, Franz Delitzsch makes this observation. If any authority were to assert itself over them, these people in that verse, if any authority were to assert itself over them, their mouth would put it down and their tongue would thrash it into submission. That's from the 1860s. It sounds like it's from today. I don't like what you say, so instead of actually analyzing it, taking it to task, looking at why it's wrong, we're just going to stop it. May the Lord root out all flattering lips, the tongue that makes great boast, those who say, with our tongue we will prevail, our lips are with us, who is master over us? Nobody, because we control everything. Verse number 5. Because the poor are plundered, because the needy groan, I will arise, says the Lord, I'll place him in the safety for which he belongs. 2 things involved in verse number 5. Number 1, the groaning of those that have been so subjugated those who are plundered, the way the English Standard Translation words it here. And then the goal is deliverance. I will now arise, says the Lord. I will place him in the safety for which he belongs. The groan of humanity, with the goal to deliver them out of this deceitfulness, out of this wrong kind of speech and this deception of the heart, the selfishness that rules the day. Verse number 7, an observation that's positive. The words of the Lord are pure words, like silver refined in a furnace in the ground, purified 7 times. It carries with it 2 ideas, that there are words and there are principles that are actually objective truth, things that really stand the test. In fact, that second half of that, talking about silver refined in a furnace, deals with the idea that these principles of truth have been thoroughly tested. They have been put to the test, and they remain true. There are things that are always right and things that are always wrong, no matter what culture may believe in the opposite. Verse 7, O Lord, you will keep them. You will guard us from this generation forever. On every side, the wicked prowl, as vileness is exalted among the children of men, among humanity. Again, it sounds like it was written yesterday or today. We live in a culture that actually has that kind of vileness associated with it, and it really is exalted, as David observes even in his day. It seems like generation after generation of humanity goes through these kind of cycles. And we even live in a time where there is a classification. People talk about a woke culture, and I hate the butchering of English language and the way that grammar is used so incorrectly, but let's talk about that concept. In fact, I think I'd like to offer an acronym for that word woke. W-O-K-E. What does it stand for? If you look at the way that people are jumping to conclusions, assumptions that they're making, the irrational way in which they're behaving, what does woke stand for? Without objective knowledge everywhere. Somebody said, well, I'm part of the woke culture. Oh, great. You operate without objective knowledge everywhere. You're making assumptions, you're reaching conclusions that are faulty in every facet whatsoever, and you don't care because your word counts. That woke, and again, I hate the butchering of the English language, that idea of woke culture is one of the sleepiest, laziest kinds of thinking that modern man has ever devised. There's nothing logical about it. There's nothing objective about it. There's nothing that really is rational about it. The emotion of adolescence? Perhaps. Intelligent people? Not so much. Deceptive speech? Foolish hearts. A problem in David's day. He writes about it in Psalm 12. It sounds like he's writing today. Interesting book. Please stay safe. We'll talk again soon.